You know, the thing with consistency, when you stop doing the thing, it's hard to get back into doing the thing. Today is the 22nd of July, 2026, and I have not published a vlog that was supposed to go out on the 1st of July. Fun fact, I still haven't edited the vlog, and it's for a mix of different reasons, but none of it matters genuinely. This vlog will be up before that one even comes up, even though that one should be more important if I'm going by scale of importance. But I felt that I wanted to come here to talk about this. You know, something that's crazy? In the vlog that should have been out since, I do an entire reset. I declutter, I plan, I make a new vision board, I have action steps, and it's the 22nd. I haven't even edited the vlog. Talk less of posting it. And it has been the same for other a lot of other forms of or mediums of creative expression that I have. I haven't written in a month on Substack, on Instagram, anywhere. I took like a 2 week break or a 1 week unconscious break from creating for my marketing brand. And none of these things were intentional. It was just the usual thing that happens when I get overwhelmed. And I sort of realized that that may be one of the reasons the consistency is hard for me. I want to do too many things and I want to do all of it at the same time. And while I make plans, I never factor in a couple of things that are very important, which I will share later on in this video. I have come on here to talk about how I quit my job. I was planning to quit my job, how I quit my job, how I have been on and off, pretty much just going through all of the feels and patterns or phases in life as a 20 something year old living in Nigeria. And a lot of the time, every week, what you guys don't see is that every week I'm trying to change my life. Like every week, because I keep feeling like something is wrong with my life and I need to make drastic changes. But even with everything that I just said, I have a video that hasn't gone out in over 2 weeks. So obviously, I'm still not a consistent person. I've been trying to narrow down my problems. And I think that one, I always thought that planning was my problem. I didn't know how to plan. And so every week I would watch a ton of YouTube videos, very helpful videos, by the way, a ton of YouTube videos on how to plan your week. I would watch all of the videos that talk about setting systems and not goals, split your year into a 12-week plan. I would watch all of those. I would consume them. I have notepads and journals in my locker now that will show you week in, week out plans, different goals. Like every time I'm renewing my goals and all of that. Not say that any of those things weren't good. To be very honest, a lot of the times, every time I planned my week was better than the weeks I didn't plan it. But I just thought that planning was my problem. And then when I started to plan and I still wasn't consistent, I realized that planning was not my major problem. Every time I would plan, I would feel very what's the word for the feeling of I don't know. I don't know what the word is. I would feel very I don't know what the word is. But I would feel very on my Zoom every time I would make plans. And I kept confusing making plans with making progress. Forgetting that after you make plans, there's the execution part. Not like I forgot that there was the part of execution, but I would always just feel so much vim when I make plans. And then Monday comes because I usually make my plans for the week on Sundays, and then Monday would come, and then I would feel exhausted. Or if Monday would even be great, and then Tuesday or Wednesday would not go how I wanted to go, and then I would just. And after repeating this process for a couple of weeks, I realized what was happening. I knew I had to write. I knew I had to post. I knew I had to create. I knew I had to do things. It's like waking up and knowing that you have to get up from your bed to begin with. Getting up and knowing that you have to do something like maybe take a shower, brush your teeth, knowing that you have to eat in a day, like those things come to you, you know that you have to do those things, right? So with me, I knew that I had to write. I knew that I had to create. Like, I'm a writer. I want to do all of these things. I know that wanting to do those things is not the same as actually doing it. So I knew that I had to do certain things. But the problem was every time I made those plans of what I had to do, I always made those plans around the assumption that nothing would shake any of the plans I had made, that nothing would go wrong, everything would go smoothly. And so every time something happens and it interrupts my plan, I let the entire plan fall apart. I just conclude that everything has already failed because something has interrupted my plan. So if I was supposed to write today, say by 12 p.m., and I did all the planning and I set a calendar, I'm going to write today at 12. If I'm in a meeting that extends beyond 12, I'm going to assume that my entire day has failed because I couldn't write at the time that I said I was going to write. And so I'm just going to go, oh, yeah, so what's the point of it, anyways? Oh! I also realized that I was borrowing systems from people whose lives didn't look anything like mine. I already mentioned that I would watch a ton of YouTube videos. Now, majority of the YouTube videos that I always watched and consumed were or are YouTube videos of people who live in countries that I would say, I don't know, not Nigeria. They don't live in they don't live in Nigeria. They live in better countries or with better systems. I believe that almost everything in this country doesn't work. Nothing works in this place. Almost nothing works. Right? So they live in countries where systems favor them sometimes, or systems are not set up for their failure, or they're not set up to just frustrate them. And I always had issues every week because I'm comparing myself to somebody who doesn't need to factor in whether there will be light or not, doesn't need to factor in the cost of fuel to fuel their generator, doesn't need to go out to get like a solar, some whatever. They don't need to bother about, or what if I cannot take this meeting because there will be no light. They don't factor that when energy finishes, they will spend 4 days trying to buy new energy because the electricity people don't have network for you to buy electricity. So I feel like it was bound to have hiccups, not because there was anything wrong with the exact plans or systems or methods, just that I needed to tweak those plans that I was whatever I was learning, I needed to tweak them to fit into my own reality as a 20 something year old living alone and living in Nigeria. Woman, to be precise. The biggest lesson that I have learned is this: you cannot plan for when life is perfect. It's something that I've been doing for the longest time. You cannot make plans for when life is perfect and when life goes according to how you've written it in your books, right? You can try to ensure that a lot of things work hand in hand with your goals or with your plans, but you cannot just make plans for only when life is perfect, because the danger with that is when life doesn't go according to its your perfect plan, which is almost always, you will throw away the entire plan because you would feel like you failed because something isn't right. And so you'd feel like every other thing is bound to fail instead of just returning to it and continuing. The problem with losing a streak or being consistent and then stopping your consistency is that it's harder to get back into. But I've also learned that it is more important that you lose a streak and go back into keeping the streak than trying so hard to keep a perfect streak. So, if I had to give you a few things that you should consider when you're making your plans, I would tell you to plan for your environment, plan for where you stay. So, if you both of us could live in Ibadan, Nigeria, right? But if I live in an area where I'd probably get 12 hours of light, and you live in an area where you get maximum 4 hours of light per week, your plan cannot look exactly like mine. You would need to plan for the environment that you currently stay in. If you live in an environment where there's a lot of noise because there's churches or mosques near your building and they make noise when you need to create content, your plan will look different from mine because mine, there's none of that around me, right? The most I get is noise from people repairing stuff in their house or birds tweeting and all of that. Your plan cannot look exactly like mine. So you need to plan for the environment that you live in. If you live in Nigeria, your plan cannot look like this the same with someone who lives in the UK or in the US or in Canada. You also need to plan with or around your energy levels. If you feel more energetic around a certain time, maybe maximize those periods, right? And let's say you live in Nigeria, and one of our biggest issues is light. If you don't have light around your peak energy levels, you might want to ensure that the periods you have light, you maximize charging all of the devices you will need for later when there won't be light, but your energy level will be very high. Does that make any sense? I believe it does. But basically, plan around your energy levels and also still make allowances when you're planning around your energy levels for unexpected things that can shake it. For example, if you use social media a lot and today you're feeling very happy and good, and then you go on the internet and see bad news, you might want to take that into account. If again, if you live in Nigeria, there's almost always bad news going on the internet, to be very honest, generally in the world. But if you live in Nigeria, there's almost always bad news, and it just really riles you up, right? So you want to also plan to maybe not go on the internet around your peak periods, because you know that you see something, it will piss you off. So don't doom scroll around that period. Really focus. Like, I think that's very important when you're making plans to have systems that can easily or quickly get you back on when you fall off a little bit. So let's say nobody plans for sickness exactly. Nobody plans for a bad week. Nobody plans that today or on Thursday I'll ensure that my boss yells at me so that I have a cranky day. Nobody plans for certain things. But it's also delusional to assume that none of those things would happen. So hobbies, movies, books that you read or you watch stuff and then you just, get back on, or prayer, worship, friends, family, whatever it is, you need to. I think that this is even a very, very important thing that you should do. The older you get, the more you advance in life. Everybody should just do it. Because life isn't exactly wired to just be, it's not wired to be rosy. Different things will happen. And it's a very important life hack to have things that help you get back. Practical example, I haven't been on my Zoom devotionally for a bit. Um, and one of the systems that I have put around me now, or things that have been helping me, is corporate devotion and friends. So, like prayer partners kind of thing. Um, it's one of those are a few things that have been helping me. That's what I mean by you need to have things around you that even when you slip, they help you come back on, right? So if you've had like a bad creative week, I promise you that if you're a creative person, there's nothing wrong with your creativity. Like, you're not suddenly not creative because you've not been creating. It's just the entire idea of, if you have I think it's called entropy, where you don't exercise your muscles and then they relax or they shrink because you've not been using it for a bit. Gym people will tell you that. So if you're out of the gym for 2 weeks, by the time you come back, some things that you were able to do before will feel harder to do, just because your muscles have become more relaxed and you need to exercise them more for them to get back there. So if you understand that certain things might not go your way when you're making plans, you would set things around you to help you climb back up. And then you fully also acknowledge that even while you're trying to get back into doing those things that you used to do, it won't feel like before at the beginning. Let me explain this. Again, with the gym analogy, or let me even just use prayer. If you were praying 1 hour per day before, and then something happens, you don't talk to God, you just disappear, disappear for a month, or a week, or 2 weeks. When you come back into, okay, I need to get back into devotion, you will not exactly be able to sustain 1 hour will feel like forever because you've not been doing it for a bit. If you've been going to the gym, if you're lifting a lot of weight at the gym, and let's say your last PR was 120, and then you're out of the gym for 2 months or a month, you don't think that you will go back to the gym after no form of movement or exercise over the last month or 2 months and still be able to do 120 or 150. You'd probably start lower, not because you've become an entirely different person who cannot even do this thing anymore and you're a failure and you're weak, but it's just the natural science of, if you don't exercise something, it will become relaxed. So you need to keep exercising something. So if you're a creative person who hasn't written or created in a long time and you haven't posted anything, you've not stopped being creative. You've not just been exercising all of your creativity over a long period of time. And so you need to get back into doing it. I read a Substack this week, and I can't remember exactly what she said, but she said something around, or she wrote something around, it's more important that you're the person who starts rather than the person who keeps making plans to start. So you're an ambitious person or you want to do a lot of things, it's more important that you are the person who starts those things or one thing that leads to another thing rather than being the person who keeps saying, I want to do all of these things, but I don't know, maybe I should make a plan. And while you're becoming that person who does things, while you're taking action and doing things, fully understand that it is very possible that in your journey you will fall off sometimes. You will lose a perfect streak sometimes. You'll become inconsistent sometimes. It doesn't mean that you don't have the ability to become whatever it is that you want to become. You just really need to start again. Sometimes your plans are perfect the way they are. You don't need another video telling you on how to make plans, how to plan again. You have a solid plan. I don't need a video on how to plan my week. I have used the same system that I've used for a while and seeing results many weeks now. I know that the problem isn't with my planning system. Problem is with the mindset of I've failed at keeping this streak or I failed at doing this thing and so I completely fall off. And so I want to do something different. Rather than having vlogs that I keep from you guys because of every other thing that's going on in my own life, I want to document as I'm learning things. Right. So if I have a bad week, I still want to show you all of the messy in betweens and not just the finished product. So you don't get the idea that, oh, I'm such a disciplined person and such a consistent person. I'm not. I'm trying to be. And hopefully, you also are able to apply a couple of things to your life and see your goals or plans become better, I guess. Yeah. Thank you guys for watching. And the next vlog will be a July mid-year reset vlog that should have been up a million and one years ago, but you guys will engage and love it. I hope. Thank you in advance. But I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.